Broadcasting from Park Avenue West, you're watching WMFD Television, Channel 68.1, Mansfield.
This program discusses sensitive mental health issues, including suicide. Viewer discretion is advised.
But really throughout the lifespan, there'll be times that things happen to individuals. They will also have transitional that we think are maybe good and healthy stress, but really can take a toxic turn.
Maybe an hour after we got the message that we lost Danny, Danny's sister said to us, we were all crying, and she says, "What do we do? What do we tell people?" And I'm like, "Baby, we got to tell them the truth. This is nothing that can be hidden, because otherwise the suicide will win."
We're not mental health professionals. It's just something that happened to our family. We direct people other places. And most important of all, I think, don't quit. Keep fighting. Keep living. Things will get better.
Good evening and welcome to Sparking the Conversation. We are 33 Forever, and I'm Jeff Heck. This is my wife, Donna. We're so excited to be able to bring you weekly half-hour messages, stories, and resources surrounding mental health topics and challenges. Now, this show's purpose and hope is to provide both information and inspiration, making conversations about mental health the norm.
Our guest this evening is Tracee Anderson. Tracee is the Executive Director of CACY, the Community Action for Capable Youth. It's based here in Mansfield. She has more than 33 years experience in the public and private child welfare, adult protective services, and criminal justice. Worked with thousands of children and families, and she also is an adjunct instructor for Ashland University and Ohio suicide prevention consultant. Tracee, welcome. You are a powerhouse of information. We've had the joy of working with you on the Richland County Suicide Coalition. And basically, if you would just want to tell our audience about CACY and what it involves.
Well, I'd be happy to. And thank you for the invitation tonight, because I will take any opportunity ever to talk about prevention. And you're certainly right. CACY, which we refer to as the acronym, Community Action for Capable Youth, because it's really, when we talk about prevention and life skills and living a good, healthy life, we talk about that for a lifetime, or a lifespan, as we call it. So we've been around, and we actually grew out of a concerned group of parents and citizens who were worried about their children, their children's family, and what we now know as mental health concerns 43 years ago. So still, it's prevalent. We grew out of a parent support group, but then became an accredited mental health prevention agency, and now cover prevention in the school districts, community organizations, do presentations on bullying, substance use prevention, problem gambling prevention, and most importantly, suicide prevention.
And you've added a lot of those programs over the years. I know it started with smoking and drug use really in the schools, I think, initially, and then you've grown to all those different things, which again, as you said before, all surround, if you really think about it, all surround a behavioral health area, don't they?
They certainly do, and they're really all interconnected. What we find, again, through the lifespan is that there are pivotal times in people's lives, and we certainly think about that as adolescence, early adolescence, into adulthood as critical time. But really throughout the lifespan, there'll be times that things happen to individuals. They will also have transitional that we think are maybe good and healthy stress, but really can take a toxic turn. And so our goal is always to provide not just information, but as much tactile skill that we can give to individuals, no matter what their age or ability, with helping and improving their life skills and emotional health.
Well, you said to us the ability to manage harmful stress determines risk level for other harmful behaviors. And that was really interesting to me, because coping skills need to be learned at a very early age. And how do you teach the coping skills for people, or how do you recognize that they need them or they're more at risk than somebody else?
Well, coping skills is something that everyone does develop. What we don't always think about is whether they're healthy coping skills or unhealthy coping skills. So there are certainly what we call adverse childhood experiences, which really challenge not only the developmental health of a child and into adulthood that might happen to them, which is severe poverty, mental health issues in the home, chronic health issues of any kind, really, substance use in the home, abuse and neglect. But then there's also those coping skills that we can see in families, that the skills that one child might have or one individual doesn't necessarily evolve into other individuals in the home, that everyone really is an individual and different and has their own skills that they need to develop or different levels.
And it makes sense. And it also makes sense that, based on the trauma, if you will, that what would you call it? Adverse childhood experience, the ACE, I think you call it that. So based on those traumas, those ACEs that people experience, they're also going to have different ways of coping with those. Again, sometimes healthy, sometimes not so healthy, right?
Absolutely. And that's why those skills and those coping skills, the healthy ones, need to be developed. And what we need to do is to make sure that we have layers around people, as young or as old, throughout the lifespan. And I liken it to our Ohio winters are not good. They're bitter. They really are. And there are some individuals that see that as a short period of time in the year. It's bitter, it's cold, but they know that soon we're going to move into spring. And they might even dress in brief layers to support themselves and to bring themselves comfort. But then there's other people that winter just really is a problem. And that even can create mental health issues, but that they need more layers. So we talk about that with individuals is there are some people that move through coping that are naturally more resilient or able to search and latch on to healthy coping skills. And there's others who need more layers and more help. And so that's where we look for those help of individuals within the family, the community, and quite frankly, that's why we were developed, is to provide another layer.
That's wonderful. We are going to take a break from Sparking the Conversation. We'll be back shortly with Tracee Anderson.
Catalyst Life Services, a comprehensive behavioral health organization, has been serving the community for 70 years. Our wide array of wraparound services and our ability to treat the whole person is what sets us apart. It's everything you need in one place: mental health, crisis, detox and addiction services, case management, and peer recovery support. We even offer vocational programming to get you back to work. Catalyst Life Services. Call today and get the help you need.
Attention! If you've been classified as a high-risk driver due to DUI, DWI, or tickets for aggressive driving and are required to get expensive and hard-to-find SR22 auto insurance, then you must listen to this message because Serenity can help. We're the largest insurance company in the U.S., specializing in SR22 auto insurance and focused on serving the needs of customers classified by the state as high-risk drivers. We help people get back on their feet by providing easy-to-get, low-cost SR22 insurance that anyone can afford. If you need SR22 auto insurance, or if you have it now and are paying too much, you need to call us today for your free quote.
At 800-497-5677.
Our specialists are standing by waiting for your call. We understand people make mistakes, and we're here to help. by making SR22 insurance easy to get and affordable for everyone. The call and quote are free. Call us now at
800-497-5677. That's 800-497-5677. Again, 800-497-5677.
This program discusses sensitive mental health issues, including suicide. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. We are here with Tracee Anderson from CACY. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting, and I think it's a good lead-in for kind of where we're going with the programs that CACY runs, is a little bit of statistics. And what we know is suicide, unfortunately, is the leading cause of death in young people 10 to 14 years old, and it's the second leading cause in Ohio of 15 to 34-year-olds. So it's obviously a huge problem here in the state, all over the country, really all over the world, Tracee. And I know your programs are way more than just suicide prevention, but prevention in general is what you're focusing on. So tell us, if you would, a little bit about CACY's programming as it relates to helping our youth here in the area.
Well, I appreciate that the focus definitely is on youth. And the statistics certainly across Ohio are grim. Mm-hmm. And we see the results of isolation, of bullying, of chronic mental health needs, certainly services out there, but of struggles with connection. And so when we talked about layers of potential of how that we address issues, any kind of prevention of behaviors that are going to cause harm to an individual and a family. And when we think about the results of a completed suicide, that affects more than 100 individuals that know them, that go to school with them, work with them, go to church with them.
Yeah, we can attest to that.
Yeah,
more than 100.
Yeah, we talk about
more.
that being the ripple on the pond from the one stone that hits and the ripple goes way out.
It
Absolutely.
is. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about how to intervene, of course, time and waiting is the enemy of prevention services. Time is of the essence when someone wants to do something harmful to themselves. So again, we look at that as a layered approach. The first one being services in school, or how do we get to adolescence, 10 to high school, early adulthood, that we know need those services. And so we are into the schools. We're in after-school programs and community centers, and we do a curriculum what's called LEADS, which is linking education and awareness to depression and suicide. Certainly depression, one of the many mental health diagnosis that individuals that really struggle with suicide ideation may be diagnosed with. And so that curriculum is very poignant in that we give them the tools by saying exactly what to look for, to giving them practical experience of how to recognize that in the words, the phrases. But again, looking at the risks of individuals, of themselves and potentially those around them, as well as looking at how they can build those resiliency skills with their family and with those that they see. Because many times, youth and really adults think they're tattling, they're gossiping by getting help. And we see protectiveness if we reframe that and say, we want to protect somebody. You do your job as a friend, as a parent. It's much easier to put that emotional concern and worry about friendship, even in a peer setting, behind you to do that. So we actually have them pick out words and phrases.
Very good, and it's so proactive. That's what I love about it. They may not be at the point where they're thinking about personally themselves, but all of a sudden you're giving them words to listen to for their friends. And you've got some items that you brought. Why don't you share them with the audience again of what you have to offer families and to aid to protection in their own home if they're concerned with an adolescent? We
do. Families in particular, what is important is to always feel like you're empowered to do something. One of the worst things that a family or an individual that knows somebody who's struggling is, what do I do? And so we want people to feel proactive. So right now we have a program through the Ohio chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, and we are offering for those families that have an adolescent that's struggling with mental health issues and potentially has voiced concern over either not wanting to be here, that they might have even talked about methods of how they would do something harmful to themselves, that they can have an extra layer. Now, of course, this is traditionally a firearm lockbox or ammunition, but when we talk about lethality for families, we talk about whatever that youth might be talking about as using to harm themselves. So that could be pills, that could be sharp objects, that could be, again, firearms, or anything that might be considered lethal, that parent or concerned adult could actually contain and feel like they have done something, at least temporarily. Again, time is the enemy, is to make sure that they are linked with resources right away, mental health resources.
And just quickly, that particular means, and I think the other thing you're going to show, those are available through CACY
For free.
To people who meet certain criteria and in our community who may be concerned about those issues, right?
Thank you for mentioning that, because we never want economics to be part of the barrier to get solutions for families. And again, families of adolescents is for this lockbox, but we all also are offering the Datura medication disposal pouches, because what we have found in particular with families, and again, through the prevention and through the lifespan, is that you might have medication, unused medication, expired medication around. And again, we're trying to take lethality out of the picture as much as possible. And again, to get those services involved in families. So this is so simple to use to, again, get it out of the house. You literally rip off the tab just like a Ziploc. You pour the contents of either pills, liquids, creams, anything that might be harmful, Tylenol, whatever it might be, and put halfway up with tap water, seal it back up just like a Ziploc, and throw it in the trash.
Very good.
Very good. No, that's super helpful, and I think those are just very practical things that a parent, that a concerned adult could do to help a child with an issue in the home. We want to keep talking about some of your programs and kind of how adults and parents can help, but we have to take another quick break, so we're going to be back in a minute with Tracee Anderson from CACY here on Sparking the Conversation.
We are more than a counseling center.
More than just a medication or therapy session.
What do I like the most? It's gotta be the team.
Providing the highest standard of care, that's just what we do.
And equipping patients with coping skills to be successful. That's so important.
It's simple. We are just hopeful. We are hopeful for our patients.
We are hopeful that we can help them find their way to a better balanced and more resilient self.
We are Hope 419.
Visit us today at hope419.com.
Twin Lakes Golf Course is affordable golf for the whole family. Play their beautiful 18-hole course for as low as $24 with a cart. Twin Lakes is designed to challenge golfers of all skill levels. And with their remodeled pavilion and course improvements, it's the perfect place for your next tournament or golf outing. Twin Lakes Golf Course, 2220 Marion Avenue Road in Mansfield. Call now for tee times.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantec and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-339-3260.
Saturday Night Flashback.
This is Sheila D.
And this is Mike Tyler.
Join us every Saturday night from 6 until midnight for the Saturday Night Flashback.
On Mix 106.1.
Mix 106.1.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. We're Jeff and Donna Heck, and we're here with Tracee Anderson of CACY. And Tracee, we always talk about tools in a toolbox. What other tools or way do you have for parents and friends to talk with somebody who may be considering suicide, or you have the worry that they are facing anxiety, depression? I know there were certain words and questions you had.
I really appreciate that toolbox analogy, because it really is. We talk about layers, we talk about tools, and the more the better.
Absolutely.
So when we talk about anyone, whether it's other peers or whether it's concerned adults, we talk about sparking the conversation. And to do that, we do it as directly as possible. And a lot of times there's reservations, especially with younger youth, who says, well, I don't want to give them ideas. But remember, the conversation is not just one-sided. So asking questions. Younger youth might have more psychosomatic, where it comes out in stomach aches, headaches, not really wanting to go to school. And those conversations of saying, hey, I notice this behavior, whatever it is, lack of sleeping, lack of eating. Why would that be? What are you feeling? And not giving them the answer, but waiting patiently for the answers for them. Now, the older that a youth gets and into adulthood, you want to be more specific. So you'll want to say, when you notice behaviors that would be talking about harming themselves, giving away possessions, voicing that they don't want to be around, then you ask directly, are you thinking about harming yourself? Because the thoughts come first. And then, depending on that answer, then you ask, what have you done that might have been considered harming yourself? So that way you have more information when you go get those services right away. And again, time and waiting is the enemy of prevention, so the sooner the better on any behavior, on any risk.
And I think it's important to mention, and I know the science backs this up tremendously, is if you say those things to someone, it isn't really giving them the idea. No. In fact, the opposite is true. It opens up the door to have the conversation, to ask those next questions, to listen carefully. Listening, I know, is a huge part of that.
Absolutely. We have to be willing to listen. Now, that's tough when we're a parent or concerned adult, because our joys with our children, we take pride in that. When they hurt, we also take a piece of that, and why that might be. Is that because of us? So we have to put our anger aside, our embarrassment, any of those personal feelings aside, because if we focus on our job of being a concerned adult, whoever that might be, it makes it easier to do the next step. And the next step is always going to get more help. Get more help, because again, you need more layers with that.
You know, that you speaking about that makes me think of having an adult child and trying to ask questions like that, because it was quite tough for us at times with Danny.
It was.
And I'm sure a lot of parents feel that way. But you're not here to be their friend if their life is at stake.
You're right. The friendship takes a back seat. Not that a good relationship is not important. The other thing that I think it's important for parents and concerned adults to know is it's not all on one person to be the answer. You need more people, more contacts, whether that's multiple people texting, calling, sending notes, checking and stopping by. Because you're exactly right. In Richland County in 2020, the average age of a completed suicide was 55. Yeah. So these are people who live independently.
Yes, exactly.
So you need multiple sources, multiple layers in checking. It's not one person.
So before we have to wrap up for the evening, we always like to ask about hope, Tracee. Do you have hope for what's going on in our community with the programs you're adding, with all the other things going on? Give us a little message of hope from CACY for tonight.
Well, prevention at its core is hope, because it's developing skill, and it's taking something from something that isn't well and making something well from it. But we do prevention in the schools, and every day in that prevention class, when we're doing our LEADS program, is we give an opportunity for individuals to either come to themselves or others to identify them. And one person from the school actually put in a slip and said, after the first day of CACY suicide prevention, I went home and my aunt's son had just broken up with their girlfriend and was talking of suicide. Mother did not know what to do, so did not get help immediately. I did. So my grandma and I got help. He received the correct medication and is doing well.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
We have to end our show right now. We're off with CACY, but we will be back with Sparking the Conversations Memory Moment.
If we could say one thing to her, I think what we would let her know is how important she was to us.
And I wish that I hadn't been so reluctant to confront him.
Be a friend, listen to him, and get him help.
I am so glad someone reminded me that I'm worth it and will always be worth it.
I'm glad that I have people now that support what I want to do in my dream of helping other people.
Hi, I'm Joe Trollian, the Executive Director for the Richland County Mental Health and Recovery Services Board. Addiction to drugs and alcohol create a personal struggle as well as impact those around you. You are not alone. We have many professionals and organizations who care. Reach out for help today. Know it before you need it. Visit Know It, the letter B, the number 4, the letter U, needit.com.
Brought to you by the Richland County Mental Health and Recovery Services Board, growing and preserving a legacy of hope and success within our community. Time of Praise with Superintendent Henry J. Bradley Jr., Saturday at 1 p.m. Sunday morning worship at 11:15 a.m. and midweek Bible study Wednesday at 6 p.m. A church in the community, for the community, showing the love of God to the community. Superintendent Henry J. Bradley Jr., Senior Pastor, and elect Lady Alice Bradley.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. This is the point in our show where we talk about a memory moment of Danielle, or 33 Forever.
Right.
And today we're going to talk about this framed art that says, "Well-behaved women seldom make history."
So this frame piece was in Danielle's apartment, and it really lays out what Danny was really all about. She was kind of the big boss lady. I used to call her that all the time. In charge Marge was one of my favorite words for her, or favorite phrases. And it really is how she lived her life, lived her professional or personal life, which was that she was a little irreverent sometimes, and she would shake things up.
And I think that's what her legacy is. Part of it is shaking up the world. And she had told her sisters that, do not behave well because you need to make a difference. The one thing, too, a lot of people attribute this to Eleanor Roosevelt, to Marilyn Monroe, but I did find out there is an article written in 1976 by a woman named Laurel Thatcher Ulrich. So she's the one who originally came up with it, and we just have to have our lives replicate the fact that well-behaved women seldom make history.
And you know, the interesting thing that I think about with this particularly is that Danny's still challenging people, even still. And that's a very special part, and it makes this a very special memory for me about Danny.
It does.
So thank you tonight for joining us here on Sparking the Conversation. We look forward to seeing you again next week with another great guest. Good evening.